Hey there, this is Amanda from Alki Kayak Tours and Mountain to Sound Outfitters, and today we're going to talk about how to create a paddle plan for your next water adventure. So, a paddle plan involves three major things, and those are going to be your group, the conditions, and any potential hazards. So, this is something that is great to get in the habit of if you're just going out on the water with your friends, or maybe you're a professional guide. You should definitely be conducting a risk assessment before you head out for the day so everyone is aware of what's going to happen. So, the first thing to start is with your group, and there's a few questions that you might want answered and to things you might want to be aware of before you head out with that group. So, those things can include the clothing, what people are wearing, are they dressed properly for the day? What supplies do you have with you? Do you have enough food and water for anyone in case anything happens? Where are you going for the day? Making sure that everyone is aware of what the plan is, where you're heading to, and what route you're taking in case you ever get separated, and what that route is, the roles that you're going to play on the water. Sometimes it's really nice to be able to have somebody who's going to be a designated sweep of the group, the person in the rear, so they can always make sure that they're the last person and nobody ever gets left behind, especially paddling rivers. And then any medical conditions or anything that anyone else should be aware of potentially before heading out on the water. So discussing those things with your group and checking in with them before you go out. The next thing would be conditions. So knowing about the wind, the tides, and the forecast for the day. Here in the Pacific Northwest, we paddle in cold water, which is in the Puget Sound here. As you can see on the maps in the video, it's an inlet from the Pacific Ocean. We're pretty well protected by a lot of land, so currents, things like that don't really affect us, but depending on the specific area that you're in, you definitely want to be aware of what affects you out on the water. Here, it's the wind and the tides. So understanding how to read a wind forecast, the wind is always coming from the direction of whatever your phone or computer may tell you. So if it's a northwest wind, that means it's coming from the northwest, blowing towards the southeast. So you always want to make sure that you check the wind for the entire day in case it is supposed to rise throughout the day, because it might look very calm and serene out on the water when you're ready to head out. But in an hour, there could be a large storm coming through, and you definitely want to be aware of that before you ever go out on the water. Another thing to look for is being able to know and understand the tides or currents in your specific area. You can print out free tide charts, or again, there's plenty of free apps on your phone that you can get as well. And that's something that you want to look at because it can help assist you depending on if you're doing a crossing or a longer distance paddle. It might affect you in a way that you want to go with that tide or plan your day around it, so you can go out with the tide or come in with it depending on where you're heading. And then the last thing, the forecast. So anything like precipitation, rain, things like that. Again, out here in the Pacific Northwest, it's not unlikely to rain throughout some point of the day. So making sure that you're properly dressed for that, or you have extra layers with you in case that is in the near forecast. And then the last thing you want to discuss with your group are potential hazards. So out here we have many rocky shorelines, some areas with cliff sides, depending on where you are. Again, in your own specific area, this might be a lot different terrain. So just being aware of that and potentially looking at a map if you are going on a longer distance crossing or paddle and thinking about areas where you might be able to get out of the water and reach help potentially, or find extra clean water, things like that, or just take a break. And if you're paddling along cliffside for multiple hours, are you prepared to do that before you go out? And also other boat traffic, including shipping traffic and personal watercrafts. So knowing your place on the water and marine safety rules is key. Understanding who has the right of way, how to cross shipping lanes, potentially how to use VHF radio such as an ICOM to be able to hail other ships. So discussing all these things with your group before you get out on the water is something to really get into and make sure you do, because it could stop any potential injuries or emergencies that might come about, or you might just be prepared for them if something were to happen. So again, always do a risk assessment, create a paddle plan. If you're going out on your own, let somebody know where you're going, when you're supposed to be back. If not, or if you can, bring a friend with you on the paddle, join a paddle club, take a lesson. You can visit us at Alki Kayak Tours for a class, or at Mountain to Sound Outfitters to get any more information. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the water.